Back in Marvel's Phase 2, they almost seemed unstoppable. At the time, a popular cinematic universe was unheard of, but Marvel was pulling it off. Movies were being announced left and right, but behind closed doors, an idea for a War Machine movie was being discussed. We don't know much, but let's see what the War Machine solo film would have looked like. Hi, I'm Brendan, and welcome to Cutshort. Things really were different back then in Phase 2. The time when people thought Guardians of the Galaxy was going to bomb, and when nobody knew who Ant-Man was, and before we got to see Quicksilver get straight lit up. But the first movie that we got in Phase 2 raised some questions. Iron Man 3 came out in theaters to ridiculous success, specifically $1.2 billion. But like I said, Iron Man 3's success raised a big question. With no Iron Man movies seen in the future, is there going to be a spin-off to cash in on the popularity? And which Iron Man character would make for the best spin-off film? Well, other than the peace sign guy, of course. You know, the guy from the first movie that Stark took a picture with, and he was all like, "Oh, I'm so happy to be with this deadly weapons manufacturer, oh yeah." What would ever happen to that guy? Oh, that's right. Forgot about that. Well, with our first choice knocked out, it looks like the spin-off movie has to go to War Machine. As we know, War Machine is Iron Man's right-hand man. He's one of the only people who is skilled enough to control the Iron Man suits. And after some research, it turns out a War Machine spin-off movie was actually discussed before. Don Cheadle, who plays War Machine in all the films after Iron Man 1, not to be confused with Terrence Howard, who played War Machine in Iron Man 1. You know, Terrence Howard, the guy who was fired from Iron Man and then went on to create a new form of math and then called it Terryology, where he believes 1 × 1 = 2. Yes, Terryology is entirely real, I'm not even joking. There's a link in the description if you want any proof, it's actually insane. But let's get back to Don Cheadle. Back in the time of Iron Man 3's release, he mentioned that if there was a War Machine spin-off film, they had a general idea of what the story would be. On the Empire Movie Podcast, he said what that idea is.
When we have talked about what the quote-unquote spin-off or the departure point might be for War Machine, it might be when he goes rogue, so to speak, and takes a mission that he believes is morally that he's morally responsible for, but is not, it's against policy, and does it anyway. And what happens when he's out there and he's been dishonorably discharged, but he still has the suit, or Tony makes him another suit, and now he's out there on his own too, but even worse than Tony because now he's a fugitive.
So the War Machine movie would have Rhodey going rogue with the Iron Man suit. That could actually be really interesting. It's kind of like where Captain America is right now. A fugitive on the run for doing what he believes is right. That would be awesome to see with War Machine. Right now he's not too interesting of a character, but I think if you gave the audience some time with him, it could go really well. After this, Don Cheadle went on about the tone of the proposed film and how it would match up with the past films in the Iron Man series.
Because if we wanted to do it, I think the best way to do it would be to go darker with it, to take it, make it even more visceral, sort of close to what the first Iron Man, how it began, and completely just felt really visceral and really realistic.
War Machine in a darker tone could really change things up for the MCU. With such a light feeling throughout the cinematic universe, it's certainly a breath of fresh air to hear about a change. I mean, most Marvel movies fit into different genres, like Ant-Man being a heist movie and Winter Soldier being a morally gray spy film. Having the War Machine spin-off movie fit into a grittier portion of the MCU could be a nice change. But with the posters of Ragnarok and Black Panther looking like a Crayola orgy, I can't see much room for a grittier side in the MCU. But that's totally okay. I've seen enough Jason Bourne movies to get my fix of grittiness. So you're probably asking yourself, what happened to the movie? If Don Cheadle had this interview all the way back in Phase 2, then so much time has passed. Why have we not seen this War Machine solo film? Well, we don't know the specifics, but when Kevin Feige was asked on whether or not they were making a War Machine film, he answered fairly bluntly, no. We can assume reasons like maybe War Machine wouldn't be able to hold his own film, or maybe he just doesn't have a big enough draw for audiences. But in the end, we have to remember that this was just an idea that Marvel had floating around if War Machine had a spin-off film. Don Cheadle has said multiple times that they're not working on a War Machine solo film at the moment. But the idea that it will never happen isn't set in stone, so it's possible. But judging by War Machine's character arc in Civil War, I wouldn't bet on a solo film anytime soon.